There was somebody who asked a question about stems. HUD asked, how exactly do you print stems so that it sounds exactly like how the mix sounds, which is like kind of the classic question is, how much do you're going through the mix bus, but you got individual stuff. Obviously, the reason the question is asked, you know this, but that, when you put everything together and things, the sum total of things go through the mix bus, the relationship between them, that's the glue, things stick together. So if you're bouncing individual stems, they will not hit the mix bus the same way. So when you then add the stems up, it doesn't quite add up.
It's nearly impossible.
Yeah.
It's nearly impossible to do. There's two ways to do it. I prefer to just bounce it all through the mix bus, and then I would make a new stem session and put the bounced final mix in the session and click in the stems accordingly to match the overall level. But that's if I was making a stem session, which I'm not. I'm just giving some, mostly for stems. You're sending it for live purposes, which people are going to do their own gain staging anyway. If they're gonna translate that to an ad mix on TV with it, it's going to be pretty damn close anyway for like listening through TV speakers and whatever. It's going to be very, very close. The old school way to do it would be to bounce it without the mix bus on, and then every time you wanted to use those stems, you'd have to turn the mix bus on, which is in the box circumstances, that's totally fine because you bounce it without it and you send someone a stem session with them on it. But that's not going to work if they're putting it into Logic or Ableton.
If they don't have the plugins or it's an old version from 5 years ago or whatever,
But I just bounce it through the mix bus, and it's pretty damn close. Like when you send, for me, when I get a mix, I want people to send their stems bounce through the mix bus. So when I put it in and I put the reference mix in and I A/B with the reference, it's pretty close.
Pretty close.
Like it's, that's all. I would just bounce everything. Yeah. Like I'm going to do that after this. I have to bounce them so I can do an Atmos mix this week, and I'm going to bounce it through the mix bus. That just is what it is.
Yeah, I definitely, I would say bounce through the mix bus. It is very important to understand what the purpose of stems generally is, and it's not to recreate your exact perfect mix in order to manipulate it. Presumably they would ask you to make an adjustment if they wanted a mixed version that was slightly different, but stems are generally for live, for remixes, for if they can't get a hold of you and they need something. And I guess there are ways to do it, I think, in Logic and Ableton and maybe Pro Tools now, where you can trigger, you can basically make the mix bus react to all of the tracks, but only have output from one of them. So, when the kick drum hits on the downbeat and the whole track squishes a little bit, you get that effect on the vocal and all the other tracks. But if
you can sidechain input. You can sidechain cue that if you want.
If you're using hardware, that's very difficult to do. And I literally have never had anybody complain that they don't add up perfectly or null or something like that. It's not, you don't need to worry about that, but definitely through the mix bus and making it sound close.
With hardware, the SSL compressor has that in the console built in, because people used to do that. They used to cue the sidechain input from the kick to re-emulate that. And a lot of hardware compressors do have a sidechain input that you could do that. But that, again, that's old school techniques, and that's not really happening as much.
And it would be just the compressor. You couldn't do that for the saturation, or you couldn't do that for the limiter necessarily, or whatever.
Exactly.
Things can get a little bit complicated. Thanks for watching. Just a reminder, all of this content is free. There's no secret knowledge here. There's no Patreon. We don't read ads. We don't have sponsors. We're just trying to build a knowledge base. All that we ask in return is that you share it with somebody. Thanks so much.